Hi, I'm Dave, and this is Dave's Worldview. Today I want to talk to you about local school board elections and why you should vote for candidates that put students and parents first. Before I get started, I want to make it very clear that I am not anti-teacher. If it was not for some dedicated teachers and administrators, I might not have overcome a challenging family situation to become a contributing member of society. But I do want to shine the light on teachers' unions and why I think we should support the candidates that they do not. The Rapid City Education Association recently came out with their endorsements for the June 8th school board elections. The Rapid City Education Association is a teachers union and part of the South Dakota Education Association, another teachers union. Both align with the National Education Association, or NEA. The NEA is the largest union in the United States and possibly the most powerful. To give you an idea of how powerful the NEA lobby is, let me ask you a question. Would you believe me if I told you that the average teacher's pay plus benefits are twice that of the average United States citizen? Well, according to U.S. Labor Department statistics, that is a fact. Now, I'm not trying to argue what a teacher's salary should be. I am only trying to make the point that union lobbyists have successfully led the American public to believe that teachers are underpaid. Teachers' unions are powerful. Many Rapid City public school teachers have three powerful unions looking out for their best interest. While the Rapid City Education Association may be involved in the continuing education of its members, they are first and foremost a union looking out for the best interest of the teachers and administrators that are union members. I would argue that the Rapid City Education Association, the South Dakota Education Association, and the National Education Association should be more transparent in their mission and call themselves teachers' unions. Early voting has already begun in the upcoming June 8th school board elections. The Rapid City Education Association, or local teachers' union, has endorsed the most liberal candidates in every area. I want to cover a few topics that the NEA and the RCEA oppose and some they support. Now, the NEA opposes charter schools, school choice, school vouchers, and homeschooling. They'll give you a lot of lip service for why they oppose these things, but the truth is, they will oppose anything that will shrink their membership and its corresponding political power. Now, the NEA gives over 98% of its political donations to Democrats. The NEA's overwhelming financial support for Democrats explains why Democrats also oppose charter schools, school choice, school vouchers, and homeschools. The NEA's love fest for the Democratic Party gets even more disturbing. Not only does the NEA give massive financial support to Democrats, they also support Democratic Party values. The NEA supports teaching critical theory, a particularly vicious form of identity politics, to our students. Critical theory is a form of cultural Marxism that divides society into various groups of oppressors and those they oppress. According to critical theory, men oppress women, white people oppress people of color, heterosexual people oppress LGBTQ people, cisgendered people oppress transgender people, able-bodied people oppress disabled people, and Christians oppress all other religions. By all accounts, I am a serial oppressor. I got to ask myself, whatever happened to Martin Luther King's dream of judging people by the content of their character? I believe critical theory teaching was responsible for the Marxist revolutionaries we witnessed burning and looting our cities last year. If you go to my website at davesworldview.com, I do a deep dive into critical theory and how it is basically like a bloody battle of King of the Hill, a war with no winners. We all suffer when this cancerous ideology is allowed to spread. The NEA also supports curriculum that gender confuses our children. The findings from a Gallup poll may suggest that promoting gender confusion has led to a 400% increase in those that identify as LGBTQ. Recent books delve into the issue of sudden onset gender dysphoria, a new and disturbing phenomena. Researchers at Brown University discovered clusters of teenage girls with social media ties coming out together as transgender. Historically, most transgender people had been men, and adolescents coming out in groups as transgender was virtually unknown. Unfortunately, Brown University pulled their peer-reviewed study after being pressured by trans activists. It seems the truth is unacceptable when it is unpopular. Anyhow, some observers suggest that sudden onset gender dysphoria is a fad with teenage girls, much like anorexia and cutting were to previous generations. But with the militant push for puberty blockers, hormonal treatments, and surgeries, sudden onset gender dysphoria could be far more damaging to teen girls than anorexia or cutting. Not to mention the fact that some states in Canada, they're trying to take away the rights of parents for transgender teens. I mean, that just adds another layer of just ridiculousness to the whole situation. Anyhow, extreme measures like introducing biological boys to girls' locker rooms and allowing physical boys to compete in girls' sports are emotionally traumatic and grossly unfair to girls and young women. In the sports arena, biological boys competing with girls can be dangerous as well. Currently, 3 Connecticut high school girls and their mothers are suing over a policy that allows transgender athletes to compete in girls' sports. The trans athletes, in this case 2 biological boys, won 15 women's state championship titles. And before you condemn me as a cisgender transphobic, let me add that many gay women have also chimed in to say that biological men should not be competing with women. And that would include Martina Navratilova of women's tennis fame. Anyhow, the NEA and by affiliation, the Rapid City Education Association support the most radical approaches to this very delicate and divisive issue. The NEA has taken a radical approach in sex education that even includes trying to silence and slander ex-gay educators that advocate for a pathway out of the LGBTQ lifestyle. You know, we can teach children to accept others and have zero tolerance for bullying without gender confusing our children and adolescents in our public schools. The NEA also advocates for things like Black Lives Matter and the 1619 Project. First, let me say that I support all Black lives, but BLM, the organization, is by its admission a Marxist organization that advocates for the deconstruction of the nuclear family. BLM is more anti-police than they are pro-Black lives. Many more Black people, including Black children, are killed by other Black people in drive-by shootings than killed by police officers. 94% of all Black homicides are Black on Black crimes. Amazingly, there is something that BLM and teachers unions have in common. They both funnel massive amounts of money to the Democratic Party. Donors to BLM are directed to Act Blue, a fundraising arm of the Democratic Party. Now, if you would like more information in this area, I recommend that you do an internet search of Black conservatives Candace Owen, Larry Elder, or Thomas Sowell. There are plenty of Black people that condemn BLM, the 1619 Project, and the damage that it is doing to race relations in the United States. Now, there are many more issues that I would strongly disagree with the teachers union positions on, but let me conclude with this. Our young people are having their identities stolen from them. Public school educators teach our young people that they should be ashamed of their past because of slavery, broken treaties with Native Americans, and other sins of past generations. And at the same time, they are taught that there is no hope for their futures because of global warming. You know, we have a problem in this country with progressivism and cultural Marxism that has severely damaged our youth and culture. I would guess that most of the educators and candidates for school board probably have good intentions. Unfortunately, many people with good intentions have been brainwashed into cultural Marxism in our colleges and universities. So while many of them mean well, they try to solve society's ills with the bankrupt ideologies that Marxists have introduced to undermine American society. Depression, suicide, and other indicators of societal collapse have only increased as we have become more progressive. In some areas, we have lost touch with reality. You know, while I realize Rapid City and South Dakota have not gone to the leftist extremes that we see in California and New York, we cannot be complacent or choose to believe that it will never happen here. We need student and parent advocates on the school board that will protect our children from damaging and divisive ideologies that corrupt the very fabric of our nation. For that reason, I am proud to endorse Deb Baker, Breanna Funke, Kate Thomas, and Gabe Doney for the school board. Baker, Thomas, Funke, and Doney have all taken the 1776 pledge and believe in educating the students in the greatness and exceptionalism of America and her founders, not indoctrinating them in Marxist ideology and anti-American lies and propaganda. These candidates will fight to keep students first and keep radical social engineering out of Rapid City public schools. Now, if you want more information on some of these issues, I recommend that you go to davesworldview.com and check out my blogs and vlogs. In my blog and vlog, Exposing Critical Theory, I dive deeply into the roots and perils of identity politics and how this ideological cancer is destroying our country. In my blog, Politics and Education, I discuss how the Democratic Party is in bed with the National Education Association and other teachers' unions. In my blog, Politics and Racism, I shine the light on how politicians and journalists on the left use racism to divide the United States for political gain. I also have a blog, Isabella Chow and LGBTQ Compassion, in which I challenge whether the progressive approach to LGBTQ individuals is the compassionate approach. In promoting healthy families as a social justice issue, I expose the organization Black Lives Matter, its Marxist communist roots, and how promoting the destruction of the nuclear family is not compassionate or social justice. And lastly, I have a blog, School Vouchers and the Separation of Church and State, that delves into what public schools should and should not teach our children and why vouchers are the only solution when indoctrination replaces education. Well, hey, thanks for watching Dave's Worldview. It's very important to get out there and vote. These local races are extremely important. It all starts there. And we need to educate ourselves. A lot of us have been so busy, just working, taking care of our families. And these guys are working full time. They got the NEA. They have unions that are working full time. They got professors that are working full time. They got politicians that are working full time. Journalists that are working full time. A lot of them are trained in Marxism. And we need to step up our game. We need to get educated, and we need to push back and take back our country. Remember that a lot of these organizations, they have names on the marquee that don't really line up with what they're all about, just like the NEA is a union and not an education association. There's a lot of other organizations just like that. So pay attention, find out what you're supporting, and, let's get this thing done. Let's take back this country. And let's take care of our children and grandchildren. Let's leave them something that's worth fighting for, living for.